Good morning, all, and welcome. And before we really jump in, I think I probably needed to do this last time. I just want to give a heads up and an apology. I have a 4-month-old puppy in my life who sometimes gets demanding in the background because he really does not like being shut out of my home office when I'm on these calls. So if you hear little yips and cries in the background, he's fine. He's fine. It's horrible on my nerves, but we're good, and I'll get with him when we're done. We're going to be exploring completion today. And I don't know, I know that for me, it's been a big deal, really being in an exploration of what it means to be present through completing. And, I don't know what comes up for you when you hear that word or think about it, but that's going to be where we go for the next hour. And of course, where we begin, as always, is just getting here, really getting present with ourselves in the reliable, trustworthy resource of our own aliveness and center. So take a second and, just take stock. Take stock of how you are. What's going on in your body? Somatics, we talk about languages, awarenesses, mood, and sensation. Starting at the level of sensation, what are you aware of? Just let your awareness expand to take in more of that. Pressure, temperature, tingling, what's tight or contracted, what's loose, what's numb, what's totally like, oh, nothing's happening there at all. And also in this moment, in addition to sensation in the body, there's your sensory awareness of what's around you. The air on your skin, perhaps what tastes there are in your mouth, what you can smell, what you can hear. So just letting awareness welcome all of what is at the level of sensation. And we also want to welcome whatever is at the level of mood. What is the climate in you? And just take stock. We're not trying to change things at this point. And what's the quality of your mental activity, your thinking? Is it sluggish? Is it muddy? Is it shadowy? Is it drifty and floaty? Is it buzzy and sharp? Not so much looking at content now, just the quality of it. And saying yes to all of that, to all of what is. I like to think of this step as putting down my arms, putting down the weapons, stopping the war with reality. So easy to be in a mood or in a thinking set or have our bodies primed against what is. It's like, oh, it's so cold. Oh, I'm so cold. It's like, it's cold. And then you have a choice. How will you make yourself? Oh, I'm so anxious. I got so on my mind. It's like, oh, mind is busy. What do I choose to do about that? Accept instead of be up against, get choice. I am making choices to ignore yelping puppy. It is what it is. I don't know if you all hear it or not. From here, what we want to do is also take stock where we're holding tension. There are number places that we call the usual sex. It includes around our eye band, around jaw. Let's just notice what's up with those two. One way of doing it is to squeeze your eyes tight, 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 tight shut, and open them. And do it again, and open. Blink a few times, and just notice what's there. Bringing awareness into this band. And same thing with the jaw. You can squeeze our jaws tight, 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 tight. It's like nothing is going to get in or out. and let go. Even, I know I'm tempted, I want to touch my cheeks when I do that, and then do it again. Tight, 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 tight. Let go and yawn. Right. And just notice, You could check yourself throughout the day in both those places, and there are more going all the way down the body. These horizontal bands are places that we block our bodies, our muscles block the flow of life, the flow of our bloodstream, the lymph in our bodies, all those things that are moving get stopped at these places of habitual contraction. We often talk about this one in the jaw, which is just so important, as the champagne bottle cork, right? And if you've seen a champagne bottle and that cork, right, you know, when you pop it out, there's all this fizz and energy. You can imagine tight jaw is holding down everything's bubbling in you. The thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, all energy, right? Usually for really good reasons. So let me clear, and we just don't want it to be a habit. We want to be in more awareness here, more looseness, to have the option to release all that's been held in for years, as well as to not hold so habitually moving forward. So, initial steps, getting present. And once we've done those things, taken stock, stop the war with reality, check the usual suspects, we begin to organize ourselves on purpose. You can do this seated, standing, lying down, whatever you feel will be the most inviting to your aliveness in the body in this moment. I'm sitting on one of those wobble stools. I have arthritic knees and hips, and this has been a miracle for me. So if you see me moving around, that's why. It's really just stretch out the low back. But whatever works for your body, line yourself up, feet parallel, knees over your ankles, spine straight but not pulled upright, chin level with the floor. And take some deep breaths, bringing your awareness even more into your body. Coming down, coming down, coming down. We spend a lot of time, heads drop even more into the throat, into the chest, into the diaphragm area, all the way down to the lower belly. That place that is the center of gravity when we are standing upright. You can put a hand there by just tucking a thumb in your navel and letting your palm drop. That area behind your palm, all the way deep in your pelvis, that is your center of gravity. So just let your breath flow into that center outlet, front, back, side to side. Really let your awareness, your life, your being, you live there. And just notice what shifts as you pull, fill, expand in your center. Where we center in our length. What that means is relaxed breathing into our full length from the bottom of our feet to the top of our heads, letting the lower and upper halves of our body come into a relationship of balance, really just dropping all the weight, giving it to gravity, surrendering. And at the same time, we're rising. So just notice, can you breathe into your spine? From the sacrum into those vertebrae of the lumbar spine and on up through the thoracic spine and on up cervical spine all the way right out the top of your head, letting there be a little bit more space between each vertebra. Length, full, natural length. Your inherent dignity, the right to exist, the deserving and worth that is yours because you exist, before you do a damn thing. Not having to earn it. Just notice in your body where you can really feel that deserving, that innate worth. And notice if there's any part of your body that contracts away from it or doesn't believe it. It's lying. Not going to change it. We're just deepening our somatic awareness. Here, let's center in with. So some deep breaths in powerful center line that we just developed. And letting it fill out or furl out, uncurl, fold out, whatever verb works for you to fill you side to side. And the filling is that you're filling yourself with yourself, bringing your right and left sides of the body into balance and relationship, filling out to the edges of your skin and beyond. Taking up space, right-sized space, neither too small and narrow and held in, which lots of us learn, or like the soldier move, like just, oh, I'm gonna get big and take up all this space. I always think of men on the New York subway. If anybody has that image in mind, it's like, do you really need 2.5 to 3 seats? Probably not. But what is right sized for you? Right size, natural. And again, we're talking about a right to space, to belonging, to being part of community, to interdependence that came with your birth. So just breathing in to your full width and belonging. So still connected to dignity, still connected to that weight of your own center, your own aliveness, still holding your interdependent center in depth. You can put a hand in front of your body and one on the back of your body. And depth, this third dimension, is all that space being. So just let your breath move both your hands and really bring your awareness to what's in between them. You may even want to close your eyes for a minute here and just, oh yeah, this amazing anatomy, a system of circulation, the heart and all the veins and arteries and blood vessels. Wow, and respiration, the lungs, and then all the bronchia and all the ways that they interact with with the circulation system to get new oxygen throughout your whole body, to refresh your blood, and digestion, your nervous system, lymph, the bones, the muscles. Just imagine you're making more space between the front and back of your body for all of that. All of that life. Let's put a little attention on our backs. Most of us forget that we have backs, especially in this age of doing so much on Zoom, where we are seeing ourselves the front of ourselves as well as everyone else. It's like, oh, but there's a back. So just really feel your back. You can perhaps use the air on your neck, the clothes on your back, where your back is touching the chair. You can focus on your heels. You're seated, you can focus on those sit bones, your sacrum. Really let yourself feel your back. Then put a little awareness of space behind you. And on whatever comes to mind, when I say all is behind you, all is at your back. Often that's the metaphor of time, your past, your lineage, all the experiences that brought you here, all the experiences of your family, your teachers, all of history. And really, the greatest gift of all, and it's a gift to each of us, 4 billion years of evolutionary wisdom that produced you. If and when we connect to that, at least for me, it can be such a resource. Reminds me that my part in this great drama is actually tiny. Maybe I don't have to sweat it so much. Also bring some awareness to the front of your body and just notice where it's tight or closed or armored. Notice where it's soft, porous. Where is it contracted? Where is it numb? And again, whatever comes to mind when I say, what's ahead of you? What are you facing into? Often the future. Invite your body, the front body, to be as relaxed as is appropriate for the future you're facing. And then just holding that whole through line, where you came from, where you are, this aliveness, where you're going. Let's bring attention to what we care about. In this methodology, we say your commitment. You have one, say it to yourself. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. Think of in this moment what matters to you. All this life that you are, what are you choosing to serve with it? And let that response just fill you. Let it nourish all the cells of your body, all of who you are. And take a moment and look at the screen and see everyone that's on this call with you in their dignity, their belonging, their connection to a past and a future, and deeply, deeply connected to what they care about. You can even just take a second and look at the other pages. We've got, I think, 9 pages here. 10 pages of people. Because one of the things about centering, if we were in a room together, we would ask, it's fine to close your eyes to have more awareness, but then come back into the circle. Because we actually, our bodies, even on Zoom, influence each other and invite greater or lesser dignity, belonging, purposefulness, and connection to what we care about. So just take in the folks here and recognize that you are a part of this circle that we can feel. we're going to turn our attention to this theme of, oh, I didn't do this. Okay. Mood. Take a second and drop mood in the chat box. Just want to take the time and go around of however many folks we have, almost 200, but you can have to see them in the chat box. The language of mood. We do pay attention in somatics to mood. But completion, this natural, organic part of who we are and of our life cycle. And actually, it's because in part that it's part of the life cycle that many of us have deeply ambivalent feelings about completion. Our lives end. We lose people. And we don't know, actually, there's lots of debate in the community of what are they called, fancy chanting now, but the biologists who really focus on animal behavior and consciousness, lots of debate about which animals are aware of mortality, which animals are able to self-recognize. What is certain is we are an animal that knows it will die. And we can actually live in a great deal of urgency trying to avoid that fact. And one of the places that it gets to play out is in how we handle completing things. Now, there are lots and lots of other things that all shape our individual patterns or conditioned tendencies around completion. But one that is pretty much true across the board for human beings is the reality of mortality, death, and loss definitely shapes it a bit. So some of us are Klingons. You know what I'm saying? Things are ending, but we're going to stay in, we're going to keep it going, we're going to keep this relationship, this project, this job, it's like, no, it's not ending. Or, at the end of a course or a project, it's that behavior that says, yeah, we're going to stay in touch. How are you every week? We'll talk all the time. Kind of trying to skip over all the have to do with this particular experience is done. And then I'm in this school, and I'm sure those of you who have studied conditioned tendency can maybe see a relationship between toward, away, and against patterns. I'm in away. I tend to be the person who I'm done before it's over. I might be in the room, but I'm actually into next week or next month or whatever's coming up next. Not all of me present, available through the finish line. That's been a lot of my work, in fact, since getting into this methodology. And then the fight shape, the against shape. Well, that's the one. And you can think about yourself and other people who, well, you know what? This project was a mess anyway. I hated being on it. And do you know how many things you did that made it horrible? It's the one that is like the drama and the blow up, right? It's like, we're going to have a fight. We're going to spoil this rather than just be with, this is done. So, that's kind of, a very simplistic summary. And as I said, lots influences all of this, but completion. Here's what I want to invite you to do. And it's something that you can continue past this call, but to start a list right now on a piece of paper of the incompletes in your life. Now, there can be incompletes, they go back 20, 30 years. It's on you whether you want to put them on your list or not, right? But conversations. And the thing with relationships, well, what do I mean complete? It doesn't just mean it's ended, but it's a sense of being really current in the relationship. Instead of in that place of regret, oh, I wish I had told this person how much I appreciated them, or how much appreciate them. Like, are you, where do you feel in your heart needing to be said? So relationships, tasks, projects, what are your incompletes? And many leadership training programs, especially for heads of organizations, we talk about the list of incompletes being the sieve, right? That your life energy, your creativity can just be draining right out through those holes. So just notice what kinds of things are on your list. It's a little bit like commitments. When I teach commitments, I often like to remind people we have a lot of commitments that may not even be right in the front of our consciousness, right? I mean, you're born into a family. You get brought up inside that family or constellation of caretakers, however that is. And, you know, there are agreements that we get into about who does what, you know? So in working on commitment, it's important to bring consciousness that you're in, that you have agreed to be, to provide, and make a choice about them. Same thing with this incompletes in a way. It's looking at, what's kind of nagging at you that maybe you haven't looked at in a while. And some of the things on this list, you may very well choose just to put a line through and say, done, to declare it finished. It's like, I think there's a myth about Alexander the Great crossing some bridge. I'm going to mess it up because I'm not remembering it clearly, but at any rate, you know, it says, well, you know, you've got to untie this knot to get to the other side or whatever. And people have tried and failed. And he takes his sword and cuts through it. Done. So that may be what you want to do with some of those incompletes. And there may be others that you actually want to take to another stage. So I'm wondering here if there's a volunteer who would like to do a little bit of work. And let me say this before selecting, the learners will identify. So when we do these dips for the sake of the group, important when you look at your list, is going to ask you to choose something from the list that you want to declare complete with. You know, that we can have an imaginary scale, right? From 1 to 10. And 1 is the thing that, you know, it's an annoyance. It's light. For example, I just noticed I was on the phone very late last night doing work and, oh my goodness, I did not wash this dish. It's incomplete. I left the dish. Tiny, right? That's not going to bother me. It's just something I have to do. A 10 is that thing that if I were to work on it, there's a reason it's a 10. And if I were to work on it, it would probably be so deeply disturbing, releasing, whatever, that I might have to go back to bed, you know? It just would take me out. So we don't want to go for the 10 level. And we don't want to do a 1 because we want it to have enough substance that you can get the essence of the practice. So we'll say on your scale, a 3, a 4, certainly no more than that. So having done that little preface, is there someone that would like to work with me?
So if you would like to volunteer, please raise, oh, we have someone already raising their digital hand. So Joe, I'm going to take you off mute.
Oh, hey.
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I almost missed this today. I'm grateful I made it.
Well, glad that you're here. Lovely. What is it you would like to experience completing?
After that wonderful, like leading into choosing a 3, I've never learned to play guitar. I've had one for so long. So that I feel like is a 3 that I could work on.
Okay. And is the sense, what is it that you would bring goodbye to or completing? Is it the F, like saying, this guitar, I'm not going to learn it, or are you committing to it? Because those are different.
I think committing, I think if I'm saying goodbye to something, it's like the weight that I put on
yes,
on learning guitar. Yeah, the perfectionism piece.
Perfect. Yes. Take a deep breath, really feel that. Yeah, that's big. All right, I am going to model what you will do. and then you will do it, okay? Essentially, this practice that we have, we usually do it with two people. You can do it with a mirror. You can do it, you know, I mean, especially in these conditions. But you imagine that the other person represents, I'm so sorry, I thought I turned this off. The other person represents whatever it is that you're saying goodbye to. And you really want to get centered and present with it. So again, I'm going to model. So let me just even just do a light one for me. Well, I won't do a light one. I had quit smoking for almost 15 years. I went back in the early 20 something other, I quit again. If you would believe it, March 12th, the day that they decided, oh, you can't leave the house in New York. So it was a very interesting period of COVID, but I have been done. So I'm just going to use that real quickly. So I'm imagining, Joe, that you are, I don't know, my desire to smoke, which has come up at points. Mm-hmm. First thing I'm doing, I'm centering, I'm facing, and I'm really reflecting on my experience with this and really seeing it there. And I'm going to declare completion and say, my relationship with smoking is over, is complete. Connect to what was great about, and not just what was great about it, but I have learned this struggle, this process, and say, thank you. Goodbye. And the main thing is I'm in myself feeling, and after I say goodbye, I'm going to feel like, wow, I'm done. And then I turn my back and I feel what it's like to really put that behind me. And then I move away. So those are the moves. And what we're practicing is the feeling part. It's being present through the completion. Mm-hmm. So, any questions before we go to you, love?
No, as a former smoker, I identify with how difficult that was. So I am
surprised, you know, but yeah, lots there. I'll just say the steps again. So you're imagining that in your case, your perfectionism, that weightiness about learning guitar, I represent it. You're really first just being with it in your own center, in your own body, feeling what that's been. Expressing gratitude for the practice, gratitude for all that the struggle has brought you, and really allowing yourself to feel it. Declaring completion, whatever it is, this is complete, and saying goodbye. And take as long as you need to feel each step, then turn your back and stay there and feel, because now you've put it behind you. And then walk forward a couple of steps and feel what that's like. All right?
Okay.
All right. You say when.
Okay. So it's been attempting to learn guitar with, I think I'm saying goodbye to or I'm announcing completion around perfectionism. So that's going to be, okay. So this has been it's been a journey. I want to thank you for what I've learned about myself through all of this. Learned a lot about what scares me. And I'm announcing this. Done. I'm no longer seeking to be perfect. This, because I really truly want to be good, doesn't mean I have to be good, especially right off the bat. So I'm done trying to be perfect. Thank you for everything. That hit harder than I thought it was going to.
Yeah. What are you noticing? What are you aware of? What insights from that practice?
Well, there's shame that's come up for sure. Just around, thinking that I have to be perfect, that like unreasonable expectation, and saying that out loud is just like in front of people, is one of those that's like definitely shame inducing. Because again, the perfectionism hits where I'm like, of course you shouldn't be perfect. Why would you think that? And like, so it's just a cyclical thing. And I feel that, well, I'm vibrating a bit, but I feel that deep in my chest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
But also later.
Let me ask you this, Joe. What might, yeah, later.
I want to say definitely lighter. That was hard, but it's like leaving a bad relationship.
Yes. I would like to do it once more and really abbreviate it. I'm going to invite you to, again, feel all your feelings, but to say a lot less. The first thing you feel is present with your reality, your truth. We all know what it is. And thank you so much for the vulnerability and courage to put this out there. I get it. Why you could feel a little, but feel it and then just declare completion, one sentence. You could be something like, my need to be perfect is now complete. That's the whole thing, and you feel.
Love that.
And then you say goodbye when you're ready, and then you turn around and walk away. So, and I wanted to do this mainly just to invite you to let yourself have your whole own internal experience without any explanation, just being in it. So let's go for it. If you good with that?
I'm so good with that.
All right, thanks.
My need to be perfect is complete. I'm done. Goodbye. Mm-hmm.
Anything that.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Anything you want to share? Anything you noticed on the second round that you want to share?
Yeah. I still that first step away, like I felt it in the pit of my stomach, and that was really surprising to me. Mm-hmm. That's an incredible practice. Yeah, it's really powerful.
Thank you so much, and good luck breaking up with perfectionism.
Thank you.
It's one that many of us have a relationship with that we probably need to leave behind. As one of my colleagues says, perfectionism is a way to guarantee that you'll never be satisfied.
Oh. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I haven't really followed everything that's being put in the chat, but a couple of comments, couple of things that I want to just share. Many places where completion is important, obviously inside our own lives with parts of ourselves, with dynamics or patterns like what Joe just modeled, inside of the work that we do, right? Those of you who are coaches or therapists, the whole process of termination is critical for a reason, right? Inside of courses, right? I'm the director of training for BOLD, Black Organizing for Leadership and Dignity. We do a annual 16-day leadership development course with executive directors from organizations around the country. This is a big piece. Many people who are in that course have not had the experience of being in an all-Black leadership training, political development space in their entire lives in movement. And the depth of connection and intimacy they built, it's very precious. Not surprisingly, folks messed up when we that last day. And it's ending. Here they've come fourth year, been on retreat, some beautiful, really been taken care of and supported. I'm sure you have similar experiences from being in courses or at retreats or trainings. And one of the ways that we try to bring home the power of the surrender inside declaring things complete is to think about, especially inside of Black history, US history, why, for example, a song like "This May Be the Last Time" was so relevant, and what it means to actually hold that awareness. That if we think about, and "This May Be the Last Time" is a gospel song. It comes out of a tradition of spirituals. It goes back into times of enslavement. People literally did not know whether or not that when they were with a family member, a child, a spouse, a parent, whether or not they would see them again because of the lack of control of their own conditions. So this idea, what would our relationships be like if we really allowed ourselves to feel this may be the last time? What would we be like when we come to the endings if we were able to be present with, this is the last time for this course, right? And really to allow people to fully be in their grief, which also allows then the pride, the satisfaction, the joy at all that's been done, and the space to define a new relationship, a new structure. If we're holding on to old ones or fighting them, right, blowing them up or running away from them, they're just life drainers. Again, they're just sucks, right? Pulling away our energy, our creative energy that could come up with the appropriate, most elegant next step, as another colleague says. So that's this practice. I was really struck by what you said as well. It's like, oh, I was surprised by that feeling in the pit of my stomach. Often say in trainings with G's or SI or BOLD, listen, Maddox, it's been drugs. And all I mean by that is that our aliveness and what our life will present us with, what our bodies will tell us, what we're able to experience and learn through these simple practices is mind-blowing, to use an old phrase from back in the day. I'm sure there's some people here who remember it. At any rate, questions, comments, thoughts?
So we have a question from Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask Michelle to come off mute. 1 second. Let me just see if I can find you here. Actually, I'm just going to ask the question because I can't find her. I don't see her hand raised as of yet. Do you see this as the end of the process or the beginning? I get how powerful this is, but it's hard to imagine a lifelong perfectionism. That was great for me to stumble over, magically going away. Or, as you said, is this breaking up with all intended grief process and developing, opening new ways ahead?
I think the latter, that it can be a beginning, although really very significant chunks of work can get done inside of it. One of the things that sometimes I've used this practice working with clients, in terms of dynamics, especially inside of work situations. And sometimes, people are thinking about leaving a job for some reason or another, leaving a position. And sometimes what the work does of fully being in the range of feelings, from disappointment, frustration, anger, a sense of repressed creativity, that they've got something more to offer. what happens by just allowing all of that to move is that they find a new way to enter. Instead of leaving, they're able actually to shape the text differently. So I don't think that the practice automatically either completes the process, whether it's an internal dynamic or an external one, but it does offer us greater space and capacity to make a choice about it.
Awesome. And then we have another question from Jay. Jay says, thank you so much. I noticed my own grief about being on the other side of completion of relationships. Having been cut off from people related to their own process, could you speak about being on the receiving end?
I think the practice remains the same, because then for the person who has been left, there is the work of coming into relationship with whatever those feelings are. And they may or may not be feelings of completion, meaning that it may be that you're coming into relationship with that sense of loss and you don't want to let it go, because actually there's a way that it deepens and expands who you are. Probably a bizarre personal example, but in August, I lost the dog I had before this one. Y'all can tell I'm a dog lover, okay? And it was quite shocking. He was fine one day and developed paralysis in his hind legs the next. And I was pretty shocked, actually, by the level of personal devastation that I was just, both myself and my partner, quite devastated. And in all of that, it was so important just to be in the grief. It's so connected to the love, the appreciation, and all that relationship gave me. It's not, that there, in a sense, there almost was nothing to complete. There was a lot to accept and let in. So, I know it's different when we're talking about relationships with human beings who have broken relationship with us for one reason or another, and actually it's not what we want. But the bottom line in this work is being what is truth without shame, without a lot of self-judgment. We have choices to make. There may be things that we feel like, oh, why did I do that? Or I don't want to be that way. But then, so that's a choice. So what's the practice to be a different way? The psychiatrist, Alice Miller, I love the definition that she wrote once of self-esteem. The self-esteem is knowing that our feelings and thoughts belong to us, that they are ours, and we acknowledge and feel them and accept them. Doesn't mean that we have to act on every single one, right? But it is that sense of a deep and radical self-acceptance that then frees us to have greater agency and choose the actions that will be aligned with our values, what we care about, and what we want.
And then it looks like we have our final question, Alta. Thank you so much for doing this. It comes from Aurora. Is there a related welcoming or hello process for what is opened after a goodbye?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know that there is specifically one inside the methodology. That some of the practices that certainly would be related to hello include the practice of entering, which people may know or not know. And entering has to do with moving towards the pressure, moving towards the complexity, moving towards life, moving towards the challenge, right? That all of us have our automatic responses that we've developed for really good reasons, but things are going to come at us. And instead of either being in a freeze and just waiting for it to land, what would it mean to move towards it? Instead of maybe being in what would it mean to move towards it? And being guarded and ready to fight it, what would it mean to move towards it? I mean, I think of that in one way as whatever the body, the psychobiology, the soma needs to practice to be appropriately, I think the word used is relaxed attention, relaxed A relaxed body is a power body. Not so relaxed, just ready to go to sleep, but a certain ease of being. Just here, this is life. There it is. I'm going to move it. That's a hello practice. And then there's the practice of surrender or acceptance. I don't know if people can see what I'm doing. It's kind of, what does it mean to full-heartedly move your heart towards what's approaching you? That's a hello practice. So there's a active one. So there are a number, but extension, which some of you may know, how do we extend towards, move our center, expand it to meet what's in front of us. That's also a hello practice. So those are some of the ones that come to mind.
Fantastic. You're getting so much love in the chat. And there are a few people who are feeling more challenged around saying completions. Jane, would you like to come off of mute in the last few moments? If you raise your hand, I can find you, just your digital hand. Okay. Well, I will read Jane's question. How could you use this situation where you've been estranged from one of your kids who's now an adult by his choice? And I think this sounds a lot like Jay's question. And I can feel the depth of what was in that question.
Yeah, I don't want to at all be glib about that, because I can hear just the heart that's in it. Maybe the love, the addiction. I don't know, I mean, that what to say about the practice, in a way that we practice for life, right? I mean, all of these things that we're doing on the mat, so to speak, is because there are competencies we need in real life, and how to be with that loss, that estrangement. It sounds like the work. I mean, I obviously don't have details of the circumstances. I don't know if it's rejection or how the estrangement happened, but the question always feels like, where am I at war with reality, choosing to be with what is, and therefore more trapped in a smaller self with fewer options than if I could be in my relaxed power, heart open, feeling all that's true, and ready to move in whatever way is appropriate at the appropriate time. So odd that there's a kind of letting go of ourselves that actually expands who we are and makes more possible. And that sounds like the nugget of what's inside this dynamic with the adult child.
Thank you so much, Alta. Everyone's receiving how huge this practice is, and it's resonating with it. We don't have any other questions coming into the chat. So if you want to move on into practice, or I can share more about what's happening with Strozzi Institute, I'm happy to do that too.
Yeah. I do want to hear what's happening with Strozzi, and I would like a minute, because we can all practice together, actually saying goodbye in the structure to the circle. Here, I think, is this the last of these dojos, 20?
That's right. This is the last one, and we will begin again in January. So thank you for closing out this year with us. For those who are looking to do more work with us, we will have a course with Susie Nichols and Tim Tolliver, who are coaches, or master coaches with with us, and they're leading a course on December 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific time called Sourcing the Wisdom of Your Body. And you can find out more about that course in this link that I'm going to provide in 2 seconds. Sorry, my computer is just moving a little bit slowly today. But I'm putting it into the chat. So if you would like to join us on December 16th, please click the link that I put into the chat. And we're hoping you'll join us on that date. And if not, we're looking forward to seeing you in 2021. It's been such an amazing year with all of you. Thank you for being here.
Great. So let's close with a centered goodbye, y'all. So just take a moment and look at your screen, and especially look at Salonis, who has been here for every single one of these. An important through line, making it happen. And there may be other folks on the call, however many times you've been here, whether this is the first time or you came to all 12, whether you've been in one of these with me before or not, whoever else is here, just let yourself become present to what these monthly leadership dojos are for you. And whatever that is, however mixed the reality, connect to gratitude. The Leadership Dojo series for 2020 is now complete. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.